name's DJ Fixman. I'm the writer for Ratchet and Clank, Future, Crack in Time. Writing for a game is very different from writing a movie because you're writing an experience. With a movie, you're basically taking the audience member, you're sitting them down, you're saying, hey, we're going to tell you a story. But when you're writing a game, you're actually letting the player experience it. So everything that you have to write is basically based on whatever the player can do. So we have to think about whatever the player can do in that world and make sure that we've got an answer for that. So if Ratchet's running around and he's talking to different creatures, we have to make sure that he can actually interact with them, that they'll say something to him. We have to make sure that the world reacts in a way that you would expect a Ratchet world to react.
I'm Dave Cumbo. I work in cinematic production here at Insomniac Games. I got started here doing animation and some rough storyboarding, and now I kind of work in a bunch of different aspects of production, from storyboarding to completion of cinematics. At the start of the cinematic production, I'll work with TJ, and he and I will kind of go through the important story points of each cinematic, figure out how it relates to gameplay, and figure out the things that we want to communicate in terms of a movie. Then I'll drop a rough storyboard, and that will get transitioned into a 3D layout, which is basically our 3D models, roughly interpreted, moving around in space to use as a blueprint for the scene.
The amount of dialogue in this game is incredible.
This is your home, a clock, a marvel of science and sorcery in the exact center of the universe! Give or take 50 feet.
I think not counting space radio or any of the cinematics or some of the small little bits, we have, I believe it's like 4,500 lines of dialogue. That's not also counting the dialogue that we cut after it was recorded for various reasons, like the level design changed or whatever. So I think all in all, if you were to put everything together, it would probably amount to about 10,000 plus lines of dialogue.
That boy looked just like your father.
Basically took my inspiration from everything around me. I watched a lot of Looney Tunes when I was a kid, so there's going to be a lot of that type of humor. And I take inspiration from movies, and I also take inspiration from the artists and designers at Insomniac. A lot of times they'll do something or draw something that really seems to speak to me and say, okay, that's a great funny idea for the Ratchet universe, and we're gonna go with this. There's also just characters that I've watched throughout my life that I've always really been a fan of. When people ask me how I come up with the voice for Captain Quark, it's very simple. I think about all the old Captain Kirk episodes from Star Trek, and I think about Homer Simpson from The Simpsons. So I think if you put those two in a Hadron Collider and spun them around for a while, you'd get Captain Quark.
Yep, without Clank, Ratchet was alone in the universe. Alone. Alone. Alone.
You realize this ship has an ejector seat, right?
This story is definitely different from anything that we've ever done before in a Ratchet game, because in the past everything's been pretty episodic. It's been loose, it's been funny, but it hasn't really covered anything too deep. And we wanted to grow up a little bit in our storytelling, but we didn't want to lose sort of the DNA of the franchise, which is fun characters and quirky humor. So for us, when we set out to do the story for Ratchet and Clank 2, we really wanted to elevate the themes like heart, themes like friendship, and themes like family, and bring those in so that we're actually growing up in our storytelling, but we're not losing sight of what people really like about the franchise.
Well, we have a great story in RCF 2, and it gave us the chance to communicate this in a lot of unique and interesting ways. The introduction of a new character, a new Lombax, was a lot of fun, and seeing the interaction between Ratchet and Azimuth was a new challenge for us.
So what now? Storm Nefarious' stronghold? Force him to tell us where the clock is, huh?
Nefarious would be foolish to reveal that information to us, no matter what we do to him.
I'd say, ultimately, since we really try to bridge the gap between gameplay and cinematic with this game, it was a large challenge to figure out exactly what to put in a cinematic and what to communicate story-wise within the game.
Instead of just having a quick one-off episodic story, we actually have more of a deeper narrative about friendship and about finding your place in the universe and discovering what your purpose is.